got a story to tell. We got next time we're gonna line
we're
up.
We're gonna run that biggie.
Yeah, we're gonna line that
up. But I had an idea, just because of what we're speaking about today with mental health being the topic. I had a story that actually is probably a lot more relatable, a lot more pertinent to what we're talking about. So I'll start off like this. About 4 or 5 years ago now. It's been a while now. Yeah, I'd say about 4 years ago, 2014. I was like, you know what? I've been working hard for like years. So like I didn't cut off my friends, but I pushed my friends to the side.
Right.
Got super focused on work. Told the girl I was talking to at the time, I can't be on this all this like relationship stuff right now. Like, you know, if you're gonna stick with me, guess what? Work first, and that's how it's gonna go. And I was just like on it. When 2014 came around, I was like, you know what? I want to live like a little bit now. Like it was like 4 or 5 years of just me hustling and never going out, like literally like not going anywhere. So my whole thing in 2014 was like, I'm gonna say yes. Like I'm just gonna say yes, and I'm gonna wild out and have fun. And ironically, that's around the time I moved downtown. So moving downtown on Queen Street specifically, it's actually like really crazy. It's much crazier than I thought. So like you have condo parties that go till like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You have drugs all over the place. Like, so I was around it. I was going to my friend when I met a really good friend of mine, who's still a really good friend of mine today. I met him, and he would take me to all the condo parties. He would take me everywhere. The house that I was in a roommate. I was in a house with a roommate actually, and our house was one of the party houses that people would come to like 2, 3 in the morning. I'd be leaving at 6 in the morning, and people would just be getting there. It was like the wildest couple of years ever, right? So my friend, and I'm purposely leaving out names. So my the friend that I met, who was living in the apartment basically across the street from mine, about a year and a half into this craziness, he started struggling, so he fell behind on his rent.
Right.
Not doing too well, you know what I mean? Things started, like the life started catching up with him a little bit, right? I just thought that's all it was. Like I was like, you know, it happens. Like the life is just catching up with you. Like you're spending your money poorly. You're doing all these drugs. Like it's just catching up to you. It actually caught up to him all the way, and he had ended up being addicted to alcohol, addicted to cocaine. Had to check himself in. Yeah. I was at the doctor one day just getting a regular checkup, and I got a phone call. And on the phone call, he's talking, and he's not making any sense. He's talking about I see a blonde girl, and I told her come here, but like he's talking and it's nonsensical. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? So I step outside from the doctor. Like, what are you talking about? What's going on? He's like, and he keeps mumbling, and he's talking like in full sentences, but making absolutely no sense. Like I got scared, and then he hung up the phone. I tried calling him back. He's not answering. Later that day, I found out because his girlfriend called me, and I found out he checked himself into CAMH. CAMH is a mental hospital in Toronto, down on Queen Street, right close to where we were all living. He checked himself into CAMH, lost his apartment. He had two kids, and that was the whole situation with that. Had to move back in with his parents, and this is somebody I knew since I was like 7, 8 years old.
And the kids lived with him or no?
The kids lived back and forth with him and his mother.
Wow. So
it was a crazy situation, right? And he lost all of that, and I was really upset with myself because I'm like, how did I miss this? I knew this guy since I was 7 years old. How did I miss? I was living across the hall from him. Like me and my roommate were over here, and he was like down the hall. We were all doing this together. So I was always like, I'd be like, he can handle it. It's nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he couldn't handle it. That happened, right? Then the other friend that I had met that lived across the street that was taking me to all these condo parties and stuff like that. Maybe 4 or 5 months later, same thing started happening. He lost his apartment, started missing work, blah, 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 blah. And then he had the same issue, addicted to alcohol, addicted to cocaine, checked himself into CAMH, and then actually had to leave Toronto. The only way he could get better was to leave Toronto and move 4 or 5 hours out. You know what I mean? For him to get better, he hasn't been back since. And I'm telling the story because within a span of about, let's say, 6 months, 2 of my closest friends, these are close friends that I saw literally every day, not like fake every day, literally every day, and I missed the signs. I missed the signs. And I was like, it took me a while. Like, it took me a while to not even blame myself. You know what I mean? Because I felt like I was enabling them. So I was blaming myself like every single day, and I was starting to feel upset, and I was starting to feel down, and I was starting to change my mood. And I was like, I felt like I needed to talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Like they went through their stuff.
Yeah.
I was part of it, and I felt like I needed to talk to somebody because of that. But my point in telling the story is that like, what are those signs? Like what if you're not educated in this, right? If you don't know what signs to look for, you could be lost, right? Like you could end up in a situation like mine, because sometimes the depression looks like a smile,
right?
Or the depression looks like a party,
yeah.
Or the depression looks like makeup,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Or depression looks like fun,
right?
Like that's what it could
Masking.
look like that. Yeah, it could look like that.
Facade.
Yeah, there was never a time when we had any small conversation about them feeling any kind of way ever.
Well,
where they're like,
Well, also too is because like one, I'm thinking maybe there's some like, you know, masculinity, like as men, you don't really talk as much about what you're going through, and two, there's that saying we buy into as a culture, you know, fake it till you make it. Like, so you just you push it aside or you sweep it under the rug.
It's so crazy. I never thought of that statement being so toxic, but it really is.
Put a smile on your face, you know, brush the dirt off the shoulders. You know, tomorrow's another day. That type of thing.
I feel like it was so much a part of their life, so much a part of our life, like not even their life, so much a part of our life that it almost didn't seem wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like it felt normal to be up every night. It felt normal to be going crazy. And because of the jobs that we had, I was freelancing. One of them was like in the restaurant industry. The other one was a real estate agent. So because of the lives we had, we didn't have 9 to 5 week. Like we could do whatever we want, anytime we want, Monday to Monday, right? It didn't matter about the day of the week. So it's just like, this is our life. Like we're allowed to live like this. Like that's kind of how everybody was taking it. And to see it, those two people that were like right beside me, just go completely left. Yeah. Like there are no signs for it. You know I shouldn't even say that. That's the wrong thing to say. Like it's hard to see the signs for it.
If you're not aware. I guess what we're hoping for is through this series, through all the people, the guests that we're gonna have on the show, is that we'll get educated on what those signs look like. When you spot them, how do you deal with them? Yeah. And of course, one of the big ones that I want to discuss today also is like when you have people in your life that are suffering with a mental health issue, how do you help them, but also make sure you're taking care of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like you're talking about, you felt that guilt, you felt that, burden, and you start to feel bogged down or weighted by it. How do you deal with it and then deal with yourself? I know that a friend of mine, we're not that close anymore, but we were like sisters coming up. Very similar to your story. She was suicidal, and I didn't have the tools to deal with it, and I got angry. Right, like my sadness, my fear, my hurt. Like I was angry at her, and because you kind of think, okay, someone's in the hospital. You're not going to show up at the hospital and cuss them out, right? Like, that's not what you do. So for me, I, balled it down. I swallowed it. I just stopped talking. And so, it's like finding those coping mechanisms if you are someone that's suffering and trying to work through some stuff. Also, if you're close to that person that's working through some stuff, how do you deal?
And even how do you get to that point where you can actually open a conversation for them to feel comfortable to talk about it? So even if, let's suppose you don't have any idea about what signs to look for and everything looks crazy, what's the actual, because you are aware that these things are happening, right? What kind of questions could you ask while you're not even knowing if there's anything wrong at all? Right.
I think it's just I feel like it's shifting the culture. The culture is shifting, right? But shifting the culture where it's okay and it's not. It doesn't make you less of a man or what have you. It doesn't impede on your masculinity, if you will. If we're having those conversations, these conversations need to be commonplace, and I think that's probably the first step in shifting.
And I think those are all some questions we could probably ask our guest speaker this afternoon. So I think some of those are very valid, and I think also sometimes it's not just about masculinity, you being prideful as a man, sharing those things. Sometimes it just comes down to trust. You just don't want anybody up in your business and, talking about your
For
stories to other people. Kern had this issue, this and that. Sometimes it's just that. You don't want people to be up in your business, right? And then be sharing it, So there's a lot of different factors I feel go into...
you just feel like you can manage it.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been, like, clinically depressed or anything, but when I was going through that period where I felt the way, I was just like, I can manage it.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the wrong thing to say. Even though I got through it, I feel like it's probably the wrong approach to take. That's an assumption, so I don't want anybody taking that verbatim, but that's my assumption.